When people ask about improving their presentations, most often they want to know how to find good images, for free. They also ask about templates or fonts or animations or colors, so pretty much focused on the visuals. People want to know how to make their presentations look good. What no one ever asks about is, not entirely true. People do want to know if there are ways to spend less time working on a presentation, but it's not what I mean. No one has ever asked, how do I make use of time as a structural aspect of my presentation? And the reason this is a bit unusual is that time is kind of the defining structural aspect of a presentation. A presentation can have no images, and it's still a presentation. It can have no words, still a presentation. A presentation outside of time isn't a presentation. It's a pamphlet. So even though words and visuals are what gets most of our attention, how well a presentation functions in time is really what determines how well it works as a presentation. And that is unfortunate because for a lot of people, and academics especially, time is a slippery concept, ubiquitous and ever-present, but difficult to manage and impossible to control. The fact that one of the only references to time in academic presenting is the whole 1 minute per slide thing reveals time as a woefully unexamined concept. Things that cycle once per minute generally not making good use of time. One of the likely reasons that academics have such a hard time with time is that academic writing is by and large atemporal, meaning there is no expectation that the structure, content, or reader's experience relate in any way to the movement of time. Paragraphs in academic articles represent the progression of an argument or concept, but don't have to relate to the passage of time. Nor is there any expectation that the reader's temporal experience should be taken into account. Readers who are temporally engaged will experience sensations like suspense, expectation, apprehension, or relief. Academic writing doesn't usually engage with its audience this way, giving readers essential conclusions before the document in the abstract, or even before the abstract in the title. So academic writing can function entirely without dependence on time, and really this isn't a criticism. Atemporality is extremely helpful for content that benefits from being fixed and static, isolated from the flow of time. A dictionary, a report, or an atlas would be much less useful if their content was constantly moving through and shifting in time. Atemporality also affords access to a wide gamut of organizing principles. Encyclopedias and dictionaries are of course ordered alphabetically. Reports can be structured around organizational, political, or financial priorities. Atlases use directions and categories. Most scientific work follows IMRAD. And even if something's ordered chronologically, a concept connected to time, it's still atemporal. Chronology can be shuffled and reversed. Time can't. But these organizing principles are less than useless in presentations or in any temporal media. A movie that makes its way through an alphabetical list of characters or a piece of music structured around the fiscal hierarchy of an institution would likely be kind of awful. Probably, more accurately, they'd be awful or not awful for reasons that have nothing to do with these organizing principles. Temporal media can use atemporal principles, it's just they won't help or matter. For example, it's pretty common to see someone number the sections in a presentation. They start the presentation by showing their, say, 5 numbered and labeled sections. But by the time they arrive at the second section, it's unlikely anyone remembers what sections 3 through 5 were, or will be. And by the time we're at section 5, 1 through 4 are likely gone. Numbered sections are not useful because they don't do anything to connect the information through time. Chronological order is equally uninfluential. There are many examples of terrific films that aren't in chronological order and terrible ones that are. Same holds true for IMRAD. Labeling the beginning of a talk introduction does nothing to connect the content through time to the results or discussion. Time renders all of these organizing principles pointless. When information is delivered in time, the only organizational principles that matter are the ones that work with time. The one that works with time, because I only really know one, and it's rhythm. Rhythm matters. Rhythm, simply put, is how we identify structure in or impose structure on time. When sitting in a darkened, silent room, it becomes very difficult to appreciate or understand time. If, however, we introduce any rhythmic element to that environment, time once again becomes perceptible, ordered. This works with identified natural rhythms like a beating heart or a beating wing, or with imposed rhythms like a pounding drum or a flashing light. Rhythm is how humans experience structure in time. Academic presentations have no rhythm, or at least no deliberate rhythm. An indicator of this is that academic presenters are often advised to slow down. Academic presentations are already slow compared to most other media, painfully slow. The reason they feel like they're going too fast is because they're temporally disorganized. They have no rhythm. Listen to a finely tuned engine or a functioning factory and you will hear rhythms. Rhythm is the sound of efficiency, so presenting without coherent rhythms makes a presentation feel inefficient, disorganized. Presenters respond to this by further slowing down and adding more clarifying information, making their presentation slower, longer, and less rhythmic. We're mistaking too fast for out of control. One of the most obvious ways to begin correcting this is to explore the inherent rhythmic quality of words. Words have syllables, and when these syllables are enunciated, they create rhythms. Writing atemporally most of the time means scholars find it difficult to write words with the intention of speaking them aloud. The solution's pretty straightforward. Write words, speak them aloud, write different words that sound better spoken aloud. We can then begin to look for opportunities to highlight rhythm. Shorter phrases help. Patterns of short and long phrases help more. Repetition is essential in rhythm, so choose a way to say something and say it that way every time. Repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. This way, if we change the way we say something, it means something has recognizably changed. Our goal is to always match changes in rhythm to changes in our content. Rhythms can also be found. Scientific work is essentially about validating, illuminating, qualifying, and/or quantifying patterns. Speaking or illustrating those patterns in time at a tempo will be rhythmic. So instead of beginning a presentation based on some archaic atemporal organizational principle, start from an essential or central pattern inherent in the content. Once during a workshop, I suggested someone start their talk on one of their conclusions. They weren't interested and chose to start with a long, elaborate background, but it was only after the workshop that I realized the conclusion I was referring to was in the title. All I was really suggesting was they start their presentation by repeating the title. Thinking more rhythmically can be as much about observation as it is about action. If you can't find the rhythm in your content, listen. Creating presentations that work well in time mostly means taking advantage of our presentation's inherent rhythms. These rhythms are in our content, in our words, in our visuals, and in the interactions between them. They will be what helps move an audience through a presentation so they can connect the information at the beginning to the information at the end. Of course, I'm not suggesting that rhythm is all that matters. You still need to have something to say, and if you try and say everything doing so rhythmically, that's not going to help. I am also not suggesting that presenters try and turn their presentation into music or poetry. I don't want people to rhyme, rap, or howl. Prose can be rhythmic while still being prose. What I am suggesting is that presenters examine their content and look for meaningful, repeatable patterns. Repetition legitimizes. I'm suggesting they repeat patterns and find ways to layer and intersect patterns to create new patterns. I am suggesting presenters look at their presentation and ask, how do I make use of time as a structural aspect of my presentation?